Welcome, Bobby G here. In today's episode 3 of Let's Build a Fish Room, I'll go through the steps that I took to modify the racks that I got, and I'll also show you me bringing them in and setting them up. So stay tuned. Let's talk. So if you've seen the previous videos, some of my previous videos, you would know that I got some aquarium racks that are already built, and I just want to modify them. I want to build them up from the base a little bit. Alright, I got my buddy here. He's hiding from the camera. Rob's helping us move some of these stands down to the basement. We had to take that larger one apart, and we're just putting it back together now.
Your side has to go to the back.
Around, yeah.
It goes this way. Flush the wall. There we go. Yeah. That's got it.
Here we go.
Looking good. You can do all your inside ones now?
Yeah, I can do the inside ones after, right? Like we can just get it placed up against the wall, and then yeah, then we can get going on this one.
Sure. Okay.
Some middle there, because that's there from one. Okay, it's got to come down my way. A little more. 2 inches. Right there. That's good right there. And your end,
Perfect. Out of it?
yeah, but don't just do that because it's teetering there. So you just gotta lift it up in the center so that it stays where it's supposed to. Yeah. That's where it's gonna sit.
So just weird. That's freaking awesome, right?
Yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
so hidden.
I put that so that it's, just a little bit below here.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not even going to see.
Yeah, you
your
won't.
tanks are going to come up, or your tanks are going to be here.
Yeah,
But it's just enough, eh?
Right.
With it right in. It's going to look so clean.
Yeah, and the same up here. Like these are going to sit up
Yeah.
about this height.
Yeah.
You won't even see anything.
Yeah, that's going to be wicked.
And
Awesome.
I mean, it looks open now, but of course the aquariums fit
Yeah.
right in between. So
Yeah.
should be good. Right on.
Okay, then.
You okay there?
Yep. Ready?
Yeah. There we go. I gotta sit down just for a second. All right. That's about where it's supposed to be. Whew.
Awesome.
That was easy.
That was good. No problem.
All right, one more rack to bring down. Actually, fine time for me to decide it's okay to just slide it down the stairs because that carpet's going to be removed. Beautiful. Now, it might look like it's backwards because it's not painted here, but we decided to do it this way. Took the camera up here so that we've got 20-gallon tanks, 55, 40, 40, 75, 75, rather than having that 20-gallon stuck either here or here. So I can just paint the back of this and everybody's happy.
Yep. It looks
Right
good.
on.
It's coming together.
Sure is. All right, let us just show you where I'm at right now with the racks. Of course, we carried them in and mounted them onto my 5.5-inch base. And the best place to start is here in the corner. I've checked for level, and I know that on this end and also on this end, I have to go up to make it level. So that makes it good for me to start in the center here. I put a couple blocks behind here and here just to hold that corner together, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And then both walls, this one and this one, lean out at the top. So what I did was I put my 1.5-inch spacer at the bottom, screwed it in, did the same over here. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to space out the top to make these legs level, and the same on this side. I finally got this all secured, and the base is actually square, which is obviously important. But if you don't get the base square first, then anything you do up here may not be accurate. And so you can see I've got shims driven in to space these out so that these are level each way. And the next step, it's getting easier from here once you do the corner. The next step will be, I have this shimmed up on the end, and I have a block behind the wall that's 1.5 inches. So I basically just have to check for level. And you can see this end's a little bit too high, so I'm going to adjust that and then screw the end, screw the bottom to the wall, and then all that would be left on this one is to level out the upright here. I'll grab my little pry bar. And I have one of these shims in here, so I'll just back it off. Maybe it won't need it at all, so let's try that first. I mean, I do have a 1/2-inch blocks cut, so I'll stick that underneath, see what that looks like. It's still a little bit too high. So instead of the 1/2-inch block, I'll start out with, instead of that 1/2-inch block, I'll start out with paint stir sticks. Thought the world was coming down on me there. So let's have a look and see what that does for it. Wow, that is looking, that's looking perfect. Let me take the camera off the tripod and I'll show you. Doesn't get much better than that. So I'll secure it to the wall, and then we'll, like I said, we'll level up this leg, and go on to the next step. Alright, I'll just show you what I'm doing here. Got a screw in there. It isn't spaced off the wall. I'm going to screw it back until this shows level. You might be able to see it on the camera, I'm not sure. That's bang on right there. The last part of doing the frame will be to level it up this way, and then it's really important to shim the legs, to put the weight down where the uprights are, so that the weight isn't on the screws that go through the wall. That wouldn't support as much weight as is going to be on here. So I'll just drive some shims underneath until they're tight, and we'll call this part of the project done. Alright, the stands are all secured against the wall, and I did replace this one piece of 2x3 up here. The one that was on there was a bit fairly twisted and bowed just at the end, so I thought I would just replace it. Everything's looking good so far. I've covered all my screw holes so that when I paint it, you won't see them. I might regret that come the day when I want to take this apart, but I don't expect that's anytime soon. So I'm filling up these cavities at the bottom. Well, I'm not filling them up. I'm placing 3-inch styrofoam. It's called Durafoam. I'm filling up those cavities there with that, and my thought on that is that the concrete floor will definitely be cooler than the room, and especially along this wall, since this is an exterior wall. So I don't want that heat from the floor coming up through to the bottom tanks and making them colder than the upper tanks. Anticipating that someday I will just use the room heat to heat the tanks rather than heaters in each tank. This stuff is really easy to cut. I have this T-square meant for drywall, but it's perfect for this application. Just put a mark there where I need to cut, and a brand new blade. It's just that easy. Now, if I've measured these right, they should just tap into place. That should do it for that part of the project. Close those off. Next, I've got these 1/2-inch sheets of styrofoam. Now you'll see guys use these on wooden frames, or maybe even steel frames, but on the wooden frames particularly, in the event that they have little inconsistencies in any of their cross braces or in their legs. So I was going to use that on all 3 rows here. I've decided that there's no point adding it on the bottom, and I've decided instead of using it on the top, I'm going to use plywood. The reason I want to use plywood up here is because I don't know what tanks are going up here, and I'd rather not have to worry about whether I've got a tank sitting in the middle of an open space or not. So I'll just put plywood up there. I'm going to do this middle rack though. The reason I'm going to do that one is I still think it's a good idea, even though I have these joints nice and flush. you know, if I'm working on this lower tank and I've reached my hand in, maybe I've got a tool or something, a cleaning tool, and I jab up through the bottom, you know, I could break the aquarium. So if this half-inch insulation is there, it will protect from doing that. It'll also, you know, maybe generally when you look down through an aquarium, you can't see through the bottom, but I also want to make that for certain that you can't. So I'll go ahead and cut these and put them on the middle rack. As you can see, I've made some good progress here. I've got all the plywood screwed down to the framing. This has done one thing for me for sure. It's helped with making sure the front edges are straight, that the frames are square, and so I'm really glad that I did the plywood on the top. It's half-inch plywood, and so I'll be able to set aquariums anywhere along that I want. The middle row has got the half-inch styrofoam. I considered putting plywood there also, but the styrofoam's already there, and the tanks that sit in here are exactly the dimension between the uprights, so you won't really see any of the styrofoam. So what I've got left now to do is clean up my mess, vacuum it all up, clean the racking, and then paint. So stay tuned for that, and I'll show you how it turns out in the end. Okay, let's have a look at what this looks like at this point. All the racking is done, the painting's done. There's a couple little touch-ups to do, but let's have a look at that and show you what it looked like. Alright, so coming down the stairs, I painted the top white. I don't know, just wanted to keep the room bright. Maybe it'll keep the tanks on the upper level there brighter without lights. Anyway, we come down. I'd call this phase 1 of the construction is now complete. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I've got my 3-inch styrofoam in the bottom there. There's half-inch styrofoam on that level, and that's plywood. Next time I'll just put plywood on this level also. I may change it in the future. We'll see how well it stands up, you know, on the edges. If the edges start getting marked up and stuff, then I'll change it, because I don't like that. Yeah, so everything's turned out really good. You can see from this end, everything's nice and level. And again, I'm really happy with how the project turned out. Alright, so the next step, which I'm really looking forward to, is bringing some of the aquariums down. I'm going to save that for the next video. It'll clear out the garage, hopefully, and it'll, you know, complete the look here. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to explain my thoughts on the drainage, mostly in terms of doing water changes, and whether what my thoughts were on putting the plumbing in, if there would be an advantage to that or not. So I went through the whole thought process and consideration of putting, maybe a 1.5-inch PVC drain line along the floor, and having something of an automatic siphon system set up somewhere along here, along the floor, behind the stands. But then the problem with that was there is no floor drain in here. I'm not going to bust up the concrete just for that. and I can't have a PVC pipe running across here as it leads to the bathroom and the small fish room, which if you've watched the previous videos, you know that small fish room is swapping places with this room here. Anyway, what I thought would be best would be to simply buy a nice large, probably a 1 inch, maybe even a 1.5 inch hose that I will just coil up and use as I need it, and then roll it back up, put it away. But that hose can come all the way back to here, and of course that little thing just lifts out of the way. It's a separator between the dogs and the cats, and you can come back here. Oh, there's one of the cats there. And there's a floor drain right there. So to me that makes way more sense than doing anything really fancy. That's my thoughts on that. So thanks for joining me in this video. I hope that you've gained something from watching it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. And as I said, the next video will be moving some of the aquariums in and also transferring some of the fish from the small fish room out into the new fish room. So have a great day.